Hi, welcome to Ready, Spotlight, Go Live. I'm As, a digital media executive from Blissful Studios, and today I am proud to share that we have a special guest with us. He is none other than Muhammad Irshad. Muhammad Irshad is the founder and president of Roses of Peace, ROP, a non-profit organization that seeks to build a harmonious, cohesive, and resilient Singapore. Professionally, he is the head of corporate affairs for ASEAN at Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, a global leader in consulting, business solutions, and IT services. He manages public affairs, government relations, community engagement, and various strategic initiatives across ASEAN. In 2018, he was appointed by the President of Singapore as one of the youngest nominated Member of Parliament in the 13th Parliament of Singapore. He is a member of the International Panel of Parliamentarians for Freedom of Religion or Belief, ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights, the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers. In recognition of his exemplary contribution to the community, he was awarded the President's Volunteerism and Philanthropy Award and the MUIS 50 Inspiring Youth Award in 2018. He was conferred the esteemed 7 Abdiali Tayyibali Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019 and is a Generation T honoree in the Gen T List 2019 by Tatler Singapore. And with that, let's welcome Muhammad Irshad.
Nice meeting you, As. Thanks for having me here.
No worries, thank you for coming down with us on a Friday evening. So first off, thank you for coming down, okay, gracing our event. Coming down here. First of all, tell us a bit more about ROP. Just now I did mention mention about it a bit. Maybe you can share with us a bit more.
Yes, very happy to share. I think today is a very unique day because we had flash floods everywhere, and
Right.
I was stuck in a bit of traffic.
You were affected?
Reaching here. So, but otherwise all good. Very happy to be here, and just to share a bit about Roses of Peace. It was a ground-up movement which I started with a group of friends in 2012 when I was undergraduate at Singapore Management University. And little did we expect it to grow and gain momentum and get traction, and to be where it is today, where it is a registered organization, a non-profit organization, and over the years we have reached out to more than 50,000 people, spreading the message of peace and harmony. We have also trained more than 3,000 youth on this whole message of peace and harmony, and for them to be really ambassadors of peace in today's day and age, where they can be bridge builders, they can be able to relate to each other across different religion, different race, different culture, and to foster that trust and harmony that we have in Singapore. So happy to be part of that wonderful journey, and I think that it's only getting started as a momentum, and we are hopefully we are almost reaching 10 years of age, and
Right.
hopefully to many more decades ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I like it when you said it's just getting started, and it is already 10 years mature. I think that's a very noble, noble cause, because in Singapore especially, it's very important lah to be very multicultural and multi-religious.
Absolutely.
And also, one of the things that you will be sharing with us is actually, to me, it's an unconventional way of leadership. We're talking about actually, which is servant leadership.
That's right. So servant leadership is a concept which is very dear to me, primarily because if you look at people of religion, because we talk about Roses of Peace, we talk about race and religion, especially religious leaders and interfaith harmony. For people of religion, servant leadership was a reality without a name. You had every prophet and saint or religious luminaries that came before. Be it Prophet Adam or Prophet Muhammad or from the Hindu deity Krishna or Jesus Christ or Gautama Buddha, they were all servant leaders. They were servant leaders in the sense that they were serving the people, and before they were seen as leaders themselves. Right. So what I mean to say by that is, when you look at servant leadership, it is a management style that prioritizes the team's growth and well-being over the organization or the leader's own ambition, or even the own leader's preference, right? So unlike traditional sort of leaders, a servant leader focuses on coaching and developing individuals and not just achieving the goals of the organization. So in a sense, if you look at the faith luminaries who have come before us, they collectively uplifted societies and communities, and they showed them a vision, they showed them how to reach there, they carried them with them, along with them, to reach that goal and destination, and for them to take the baton and to move forward. So in a sense, this servant leadership is something that was a name was a reality without a name, because it was only maybe in the 1970s
Right.
Yeah,
It's quite recent. Yeah.
quite recent. It's about just over 50 years or so, where it traces origin to this person called Robert Greenleaf, and in his essay in 1970, The Servant as a Leader, he described servant leadership as the servant leader is servant first, and it begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve and to serve first, right? So I think if you look at organization, companies, a lot of companies look at an employee at cogs in a wheel who exists solely to help the organization advance its goals.
Yeah.
But however, leaders, act as masters who dole out authority, and it's very hierarchical, it's very authoritative, and they don't really care how the work gets done as long as delivered on time. That's pretty much what we have in today's day and age, where we are KPI driven, and we have deadline driven, exactly. And servant leadership, in fact, flips the typical leadership script by putting people ahead of power. And when I say people ahead of power, is basically what are the principles of servant leadership? So let me just focus on that. Servant leaders share a common set of core characteristics, and in several of this literature that's out there, they have 10 principles which they cite. And these 10 principles are, number one is listening. I think that's absolutely important and crucial. And listening is at the heart of servant leadership. If a team member is talking, give them a full focus and attention. No interruption is allowed. It is a simple way to make your team feel valued and for them to know that you care for them. So I think listening is a very simple concept, but it's very difficult to practice, especially when you're in a position of authority. Right. When you're in a position of authority, especially when what you say gets done, it's the impetus for you to listen to the feedback, even from the pauper and the peasants on the the last man on the line, is it's not there. The incentive isn't there. But however, servant leaders makes it a point to make sure that they're able to listen to every single point or every single feedback that they receive, even from a person who is insignificant, or even from a person who is perhaps last in the rank or hierarchy.
Okay, so just to stop you there, so listening is one of the main important points as a leader. But as a servant leader, it's even more important to be able to receive feedback, so that this leader is able to serve their team or their people better.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
Right. How about like other aspects of servant leadership? What would you say are
listening
different?
is one. I mean, when you listen, you get the feedback, and then comes the second stage where you have to empathize. Empathy is absolutely important. And a lot goes into empathy, because when it comes to servant leadership, it basically comes down to getting to know your team, getting to know your workers or your employees or the people in your organization, and to find out what makes them tick, and to learn their strengths and weaknesses, and to be able to harness their strength, as well as to see what avenues can you provide or support can you provide to ensure they overcome their weaknesses, right? So that way you can let them, you can let your team members shine, and perhaps even help them to turn their weakness into a strength.
Okay, so, and all this is as a role of this servant leader. So you are taking this appointment to be able to nurture your team.
Absolutely.
So that they can achieve more.
Absolutely. And that way, it is an inclusive style of leadership, and that's what servant leadership is all about. And when you look at some of the other aspects of servant leadership beyond just listening and empathy, is I would say healing, as cited by some of the literatures out there, where some members may come to you from a previous job that had a really toxic work environment, and they may have had very bad supervisors or managers or bosses, and you have to take them in and to get them to be in an environment which is inclusive, which is safe, and which is an environment where they're able to recuperate and heal from the trauma of being working under such a boss, so that you're able to then get them on your side, and for them to grow along with you as you help propel the organization to move forward.
Okay, so just to talk further about that point, I think that's very relevant in this day and age, where right now it's a year of change, right? With the current climate and situation right now, so many people are actually changing jobs or looking at changing jobs, right? So but what happens is, like you mentioned, there may be some form of trauma or some baggages that they bring along with them, and so when they go into a new company or a new form of a new organization, a new team, it's nice that a leader or a supervisor over there is able to be a bit empathetic and be
Yes.
able to, a bit more consideration,
a
give
bit
a
more
bit more
nurturing,
consideration. Yeah, a bit
right?
more. Yeah, that's the word. A bit more nurturing.
That's right. So especially today's day and age, if you look at COVID-19 pandemic, it has disrupted every single industry.
Yes.
It has disrupted every single industry. And me being in Tata Consultancy Service, a tech company, I'm firsthand seeing how every industry, regardless of how traditional they are, they're getting disrupted by technology. And it's inevitable because if you look at the world, because of COVID, you used to have a situation where you have contingency plan for working out of offices. Say, for example, if one office is having a downtime, you can move to another office in the same country.
The contingencies to shift.
Exactly.
From, okay?
And if one country is so what happens is if one country is down, you can move to a regional office, you can move around, etc. But what happens if the entire world is in a lockdown situation, or for Singapore's instance, circuit breaker?
What kind of contingencies?
What
do you
contingency?
have?
Yeah. So you have to really think hard. And what we did at TCS was we looked at this whole concept called secure borderless workspaces.
Right.
Yeah, secure SBWS, that's what we call it.
Okay.
And what secure borderless workspaces does is, doesn't matter where you are. Are you at home? You can be in office. You can be in remotely in any part of the world.
Yeah, when you say borderless, it means regardless of where you are in the world.
All you need is either you need a laptop or an iPad or your phone, and with the security solutions and with that sort of workspace that you have, digital workspace, you're able to work from wherever you are. And that is this kind of adaptation that we had to make as a tech company. But beyond just TCS, you're looking at the education sector being disrupted. A lot of the learning has moved online.
Yes, for a good 1 year.
Absolutely.
The education has been disrupted.
Even the healthcare sector is disrupted,
yes,
because
of course,
you have a burst of a lot of telemedicine companies burst to the scene.
Correct.
And you're looking at the travel and hospitality industry disrupted. It's used to be a very high touch industry, but now it's very low touch because of the fact that you can't have much contact.
Correct.
And also people are taking virtual tours right now, so because you can't have physical tours. What I mean to come at this is, in such a disruptive phase that we're living in, where the new normal is disruption in itself, then how can you as an employee adapt to the environment that you're working in? Because employees globally are under tremendous amount of stress, because of them having to work longer, because of them having to adapt to the new way of working. And if you are someone older, it's even more harder for you because you're not so tech savvy as the youth and the youngsters. So in such an environment, we need leaders and we need supervisors and we need HR departments, human resource departments, to really be able to bridge that gap and to help the employee to uplift themselves, to be able to be staying connected, to able to ensure that they're able to deliver on their work, and to support them in whichever ways and ways possible. In a sense.
One interesting point that you brought in was you saying that technology is actually helping a lot to improve circumstances right now. But also you mentioned HR being a very huge factor, and it's irony how like the human element of HR is important to bringing in people or make people feel welcome and nurturing, as well as a tech perspective angle to it, so that both sides are actually to be able to contribute to a company or an organization so that it can move forward in this climate.
Personally, I feel that as I spoke in Parliament in one of my speeches during the budget debate last year, is I think we have come to a point where we have to really reimagine how our work-life balance is, how our way of working is going to be in future post-COVID world. Because if you look at the current situation before COVID, what you see was usually employees will go in the morning, 9 a.m., and then the workplace, they're working all the way till 6 p.m., and then they knock off from work. And sometimes some industry, investment banking, consulting, etc., they go, or in the audit industry, for example, they work all the way until 10 p.m., etc. They come home just to take a shower and sleep. Next morning, they go on the grind again. What we are seeing is a change in that sort of way of working, right? And I feel that it's important to take the reap the benefits of this way of working, whereby remote working is something that I think it's here to stay, and it should be the norm, whereby we don't really have to go to work 5 times a day. And I propose in my speech a 4-day work week.
Okay.
And a 4-day work week is really looking at how we giving the employees the flexibility to be able to work from office or work from home, but it doesn't matter as long as the work gets done. And to get the work done, you also need to rethink how the whole human resource or HR function is functioning in any company or organization, because we are driven by the number of hours clocked in. That's the usual mindset traditionally. But now we are looking at how a given project can be broken down into smaller bite-sized components, and how the employees can each take each of the components that needs to be worked, and this project management can then facilitate the work that the employee is doing to ensure that the work gets done at the end of the day. So what I mean to say is that we should be allowing our people to have the flexibility of working from home or working from office, and not be too rigid on the way of work, as long as the work gets done and the employees are happy, and the bosses are able to nurture and carry them along in the journey of the organization. One thing that I want to mention is this would also help a group of people who would often be left behind. So people with disability. Because invariably, what I shared in my speech was people with disability, they would need the assistance of someone to help them with transportation, with getting from point A to point B, and it would take them much longer time to commute because of their circumstances.
Yeah, these kind of things, like able-bodied people like us, we
Exactly.
don't give it a thought.
Exactly, absolutely. And so people with disability is one group of people who would really benefit from this sort of a new paradigm of work arrangement. The second group is caregivers. Many moms, many family members you may have had in your own family or extended family, they have caregiving duties at home, be it the elderly parents or be it the children or young infants. And in that circumstance, they're not able to commit working on a 5-day model where you have to commute to office 9 o'clock, come back at 6 p.m., etc. But they still want to be contributing back to this economy, contributing back positively to the company that they are working in. And how can we then adjust this whole work-life balance or sort of working lifestyle so that they can take care of their loved ones, at the same time economically contribute back to society and work for the company that they like to work for?
Because otherwise, sometimes they will have a conflict of priorities, you say, right?
Yes.
At home,
Absolutely.
or a career, that
Absolutely.
kind of thing.
And I think this will open up a whole new pool of talents that we have in Singapore, where like you say, priority, they had to prioritize their loved ones and family members, taking care of them rather than their own career. But if you give them the option and the flexibility of working from home, then can you still do both the job, right?
The possibility of to be able to do both and to do both well at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's an attractive idea.
And for this to happen, comes back to servant leadership. You need enlightened leadership. You need enlightened HR managers. You need enlightened bosses of companies who would be able to seize the opportunity that this potential pool of employees have to offer. And if you're looking for growth, you would have seen during COVID-19, there was a hard stop in the number of talents that we have coming in from overseas to Singapore. So, and we also had talents based in Singapore moving out, of Singapore, going back to their own country of origins, etc.
That affected a lot of industries.
Absolutely. And in that situation, you have a labor shortage. And because of labor shortage, what you had was services were disrupted. Firms had to readapt and readjust to this whole shortage of talent and manpower. So can we then look at our own backyard, what we have in Singapore, our own people, people with disabilities, people who are having caregiving duties? Can we tap on the human resource potential of these individuals? And I think it all boils down back to enlightened leadership in a company or organization. And servant leadership, as I shared earlier, puts the priorities of the well-being of their staff and their workers and employees before the organization's ambitions or goals of the CEO or the leader. So that way you can not only harness untapped potential of possible employees, at the same time you can also use their weakness into strength, right? Because technology allows you to do so. They can be at home, they can be wherever they are, they're still able to work on whatever task that's given to them, but at the same time it needs a bit of adjustment on the part of the management as well as on the part of the employee. But I think we can overcome that because we have always been adjusting to the new normal.
Yeah.
So, and I think in the new world, this is going to be the new normal, and we have to get used to it.
Yeah.
Because the nature of job is such that one thing that COVID-19 has proven us is borderless, truly borderless.
Okay.
So if today you've had an employee who's based in Singapore in a company like TCS, you realize that because of the fact they're stuck in another country and they're not able to come to work, to the workplace in Singapore, they are working remotely from other parts of the world. In other countries in ASEAN, in other countries in Asia, they're working from there. So which means technically you're not competing with your employees in Singapore anymore. You're competing with a global employee base.
It's a global market.
It's a global market, because at the end of the day, they are still they're still able to deliver their work based out of a different geography than in Singapore. And so, does that mean that the job that we have here in Singapore is under threat? I think it is, because end of the day, if someone else in other parts of the world can do the same job and deliver the job, and to be able to possibly charge a fraction of the cost that they're paying to the local employees, then I think that is a real possibility that we have here. So that's why we need, again, I go back to the point on leadership, because leaders are important, because you need to harness the full potential of an employee, not just delivering the work that they're tasked with doing, but also getting them involved in the activities of the organization, building that camaraderie, building that positive interaction that they can make with their fellow colleagues as well.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all that. That was heavy, but actually that was very refreshing.
It was heavy.
But I must say it was very refreshing. I mean, like, those points are actually quite new for me to hear, honestly, because previously I was working in a corporate for a good part of 10 years, and I was very top down. I must say, honestly, it was very top down, and my experience there was positive, because I had a good supervisor. My supervisor was very nurturing. That was a very important word that you said. He was very nurturing from the start till the end. He was always asking me what I needed to do, and even towards the end of my leg over there, he was asking me, like, do I have anything to add? Wow. So there was a very important component, I felt. And but my tenure there ended, and I'm with this team over here. And over here also, I feel a different form of leadership, which is also equally encouraging, and at the same time also refreshing. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And one thing that I want to mention is, when we talk about servant leadership, one of the traits or the elements is to be self-aware. I think that's absolutely important. And as I mentioned earlier, the importance of understanding your team's strengths and weaknesses, it's important. But it's just as important to do a little self-reflection of your own as a leader. Right.
So that's all important.
So for example, to just take stock of the inventory of your own strengths and weaknesses, and figure out how you fit in the overall team as a leader, and then use yourself in ways that benefit the team and the company. Right. So recognizing your own limitations can also help to see opportunities to leverage on your team's strength more clearly.
So a good leader will not only consider his team's strength and weaknesses, at the same time he's aware enough to consider his own strength and weaknesses, and to leverage where it's necessary.
Absolutely. So it's such that you have to help them so that they can help you, right? So if I were to put it that way.
Okay. Let's bring the conversation forward. Okay, so I must say, you have brought a lot of points where the leaders will need to do a lot to be able to be this kind of leaders this kind of servant leadership, and at the same time, teammates as well, employees also has to be at the same time be able to adapt and to be able to fully benefit from this kind of leadership, right?
That's right.
So, what would you say would they need to expect as teammates themselves, not as leaders but as employers? What do you think they need to expect when their leader decides to have this shift of leadership, decide to change, decide to adapt this form of servant leadership, which is, I think it has benefits from,
I think typically when you talk about any organization, leadership transition they typically talk about the person leaving and the new person coming to take over.
Okay.
But if it's the same person, perhaps he go to a workshop on servant leadership, or he interacts with a mentor that he has on servant leadership, and try to adopt that change. I think one of the key factors that he need to factor in is persuasion.
Persuasion?
Persuasion, yes.
From
Because servant leadership use persuasion to build consensus, right?
Okay,
And to get
okay.
the buy-in from the team. And that way everyone feels that they have a stake in the team success, right? So you have to feel, you have to make the employees and the people in the organization feel that they have a vested interest in ensuring the success of the project or the company or the organization. And I think that's absolutely key because if you can't persuade, if you can't rally your employees behind you to
Right.
see the vision that you have put forth for the organization, then very difficult, for you to chart the way forward because they would still think that this is still the same
person,
exactly
same style.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so the persuasion, to be able to persuade your team and for them to realize that they are going in a new direction now.
Absolutely.
That's important.
And
okay.
adding on to that persuasion, I think what's also important is foresight, right?
As a leader,
absolutely.
you have that
So
foresight.
another key characteristics of servant leadership is actually taking the knowledge that you have learned in the past and applying it to the future, so that you and your team can grow. And when you talk about foresight, you're also looking at this whole concept of charting a vision or a future for the organization. So you may have had a different leadership style, where you decide to be a servant leader, which puts the focus more on the employees and the people at the center rather than the ambition and the KPIs that you have put forth for them.
Right.
So that you nurture them to achieve that goals and targets.
You're saying that the KPI and deadlines are not being ignored. At the end of the day, they are still met, but with a stronger, more motivated team achieving that same goals.
Absolutely. So that I feel it's essentially, what are the key components of servant leaderships are, and happy to share more if you have any questions.
Okay, actually that was a very very good sharing from you, and I'm sure our viewers and myself personally have learned a lot, right, in the last few minutes that you've been sharing with us about this servant leadership. It's been very very insightful, honestly. Okay, let's talk about our experience working with each other now.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, I just want to
yeah.
add one more point on servant leadership versus traditional leadership, right? So
right, yeah. So right now, if we are talking about leaders right now who are currently doing a more top-down authoritarian approach, how is it different from this servant leadership?
So when you look at servant leaders and traditional, they employ a very different technique and offer vastly different outcomes. Right? So what do I mean by that? With a traditional leadership approach, the leader encourages the people to do their jobs by providing them with guidance, direction, and motivation.
Right.
The main focus of a traditional leader is to improve the business position of the company or the organization in the market, right? So yes, they offer guidance, they offer motivation and direction, but what is the main focus of the leader is to improve the business position of the company or the organization in the market. However, servant leadership occurs when the main leaders, the goal of the leader, the main goal and the responsibility is to provide service to their people, right? So a servant leader focuses on the people that are directly below them rather than the company as a whole. And in servant leadership, the leader ensures that the followers are growing in all areas, their profession, their knowledge, their autonomy, and even their health and physical development, right? So what you are seeing is, as a servant leader, you are essentially changing the culture of the organization and or the company and putting people at the heart of it. And when the people are taken care of, when they when they're happy, when they're able to the environment that they work in is conducive for them, then it's of the view that they will perform and they will deliver on what they're supposed to do and take the company to greater heights.
Okay. So we're talking about not only looking or pushing them to perform better, but also taking care of other needs as well in terms of like their welfare and all that, so that they are more comfortable to work and able to perform better as well.
Yes,
so at the end of the day, the KPIs and goals are still met.
Yes. I mean, in an ideal situation.
Yeah, ideal, of course.
That's right.
Right. Okay, moving on. So actually, Blissful Studios, myself, we have had a good experience actually to be able to work with you last few years actually on a few projects from ROP to Tata, And honestly, personally, I must say for myself, those are all very, very eye-opening, challenging, but the takeaways are all very, very enriching.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about yourself? What would you say would be some takeaways you have working
I think
with the team here?
one thing that I have to admit and share is anytime that I approach Blissful, be it in the capacity of Rose of Peace or Tata Consulting Service, as you shared, it's always been on a very, very short time frame.
Okay.
You know, the lead time has always been like 1 week's notice, or perhaps even the craziest things that we have done are 1 day's notice or a couple of hours notice. And,
Yeah.
and
Hence the word challenging. Yes.
yes.
But of course,
So
yeah.
in those kind of circumstances, one thing that always struck me was the dedication and the sincerity of both Amirul and Huda, and the fact that they're able to see the larger costs. You know, because some of the those of Peace is a non-profit organization. We're not a for-profit entity, and as a non-profit organization, many times we have to rely on grants, we have to rely on you know, fundings from organizations, etc. And these are all reimbursement basis. I mean, frankly speaking. So in that such situation, what we realize is, you know, they're very accommodating. They don't see they don't see the dollar value, but they see the costs behind that. What is the cause that we are championing, and it resonates with them, and they're able to support it for a good cause and for the good of the larger public. So in those situations where you know, where we're really having like a time crunch, or we're having like a you know, dollars crunch, you know, I think we have had a tremendous amount of support that we have received from Blissful over the years. But not only that, I think he is a perfect example of a servant leader himself, Amirul and Huda.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because they are nurturing, you know, and the way that they have taken you on board, and you have joined them, and you have been working with them. And I've seen in some of this engagement that we have had with you, with be it the Amara Hotel, the launch of the Rose of Peace Ambassador program with Madam Halima Yaakob, or be it, you know, again with Madam Halima Yaakob in Tata Consulting Services at the launch of the finale of the TCS Sustainathon.
Yes, Sustainathon.
And what we had in those situations was, you know, they were guiding you, they were telling you, take from this angle, you know, do that, do this, and even before telling you to do it, he would have also guide you along, and, you know, went ahead to do it together with you. You know, so that's something that's very nurturing, and that's something that's uplifting as an employee, because you want to be, you know, able to rely on them, and, you know, they lead by example more than anything, right?
Yeah,
So
that's something that you kind of like can appreciate a lot more lah. Yeah, when you are able to personally experience it. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, actually, yeah, thank you very much for those kind words. Yeah, actually, it has been an amazing sharing.
I didn't even realize the time flew
Same
by.
here, yeah, same here. It just zoomed by.
Exactly.
And all those bombs that you were dropping.
No,
it
I hope
like,
it was useful and beneficial for yourself, for the viewers online.
Yes, I hope so too.
And I think at the heart of it, what I feel servant leader is all about is to lead by example. Is to lead by example, is to put people first at the center of whatever that you do, to ensure the well-being of your people, and you grow together as one.
Yeah.
You know?
Growing together as one can achieve a lot more. Yeah.
But however, having said that, it's easier said than done, and I think it takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of effort, because you can easily get fatigued, because, you know, you're putting others before you, and you know, many servant leaders have reported burnouts as well, right? So however, if it's a sustained way of working, if it's a sustained way where collectively the entire organization, in every position there are servant leaders. If you are the general manager, if you're the director, if you're the boss, if you are the supervisor, you're helping others below you, so that they will then help you to fulfill your own role. It's a positive reinforcement that goes on, and that makes the life of everyone easier, and it will then shape the culture of the organization, where you can grow together as one.
Wow. Thank you for that beautiful summary. Couldn't have said it any better.
I hope so.
Okay, before we end, Irshad, maybe you can share with us, you know, maybe how can our viewers get in touch with you or find out more about your beautiful organizations?
Rose of Peace, as shared by us earlier, we are online, we are on social media, Instagram.com/rosesofpeace, rosesofpeace.com, as well as on Facebook, fb.com/Rose of Peace. Feel free to drop us a message on social media, or you can email us at contact@roseofpeace.com, or you can look me up on social media and drop me a message. More than happy to connect with individuals who are interested, who are keen to foster a more inclusive, Singapore, which is socially cohesive as well as resilient. That people can come and work together across racial, religious, and cultural divides, really to foster a more peaceful and harmonious Singapore.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
Time is once against us, and it seems that is all for today's Ready, Spotlight, Go Live. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram at Blissful Studio SG, Facebook at Blissful Studios, and also on YouTube at Blissful Studios. And with that, bring your life to life. Stay blissful.